My wife and I recently spent a weekend driving the coast with the intention of shooting a video documenting our trip. As much as I was looking forward to this trip, it was kind of a letdown when it didn't turn out as great as I thought it would. From the heavy traffic to the overcrowded beaches, it was hard to find a quiet place to just sit and relax. However, I did make it to a spot I've been wanting to hit for a while to get some photos at sunset. This photo ended up being one of my favorites from the trip, and today I'm going to show you how I used both Lightroom and Photoshop to edit this photo. I always start my edit in Lightroom, making minor adjustments to the contrast and exposure of the image. This is when the importance of shooting in RAW comes into play, as it allows you to play around a little more with the shadows and the highlights. Next, I move on to the HSL sliders, where you have complete control over each individual color in the image. I try to use this feature to adjust the colors so that I have a consistent look throughout my photos. The tone curve is one of my favorite adjustments to make, as I use it to add a little fade to the image, which has a really nice look. Next, I dial in a little bit of fine-tuning to the sharpening and noise reduction if needed. I don't do this to every image, but sometimes it's a nice little added detail. Rather than adding a vignette to the entire image, I often like to use gradient filters, which I think are a good way to add a little depth and contrast to the foreground. And finally, I use a 4:5 crop, which looks best on Instagram. As soon as I saw this raw image in camera, I knew right away I wanted to remove one of the subjects from the cliff. After transferring the photo to Photoshop, this can be done several different ways. The easiest way, and what I found works 90% of the time, is by making a rough outline around the subject that you want to remove from the photo and using content-aware fill. The sky looked a little boring in this photo, so I also wanted to do a sky replacement. I chose to use the sky from this photo, which I shot in the mountains several weeks ago. Before replacing the sky, I wanted to make sure that the sky I was replacing it with had similar colors to the photo that I'm editing. To do this, I copied the settings of the photo that I'm editing and applied them to the photo of the sky. Next, I brought this image into Photoshop, made a selection of the sky, and dropped it onto the other image that I'm editing. There's a few different ways to blend a sky into the image, but for this one, I changed the blending mode to multiply and just used the eraser tool to blend it into the background. Most of this process was just trial and error, playing with the positioning and the blending until I got something that I thought looked good. Once I brought the photo back into Lightroom, I wanted to add some sort of artificial light source. I did this by using a radial filter, increasing the exposure, and adjusting the color to match the color of the sky. Finally, I added a gradient to the entire image to add some contrast and darken the sky. So here's a before and after of the final image. Go ahead and give this video a like, subscribe to my channel, and thank you for watching.